You'd like me to go? Greg Smith, Director of the CDA.
Debbie Pedro, Columbia Development Authority. Emily Collins, CDA.
Give that as our consulting. Chris, you already. Friday process for you. Got from Printer. Swanson Insurance Group. Carlo, very.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And we appreciate you being here. Thank you, Lisa, for this nice facility. We appreciate being able to be here with you. I think we need to move to the consent agenda. So we're looking at the minutes of July 25th. You want to do these individually or for the entire consent agenda at the same time?
Mr. Chair, you can do them all together. The one thing I do want to point out is that our QuickBooks statement matches to the penny with our checkbook.
Okay. Can everyone who wants to hear what's going on here? Is that sufficiently loud? Okay, good. So having noted that the balance sheet is to the penny, and we have a report in the packet from the Port of Morrow. We're looking for a motion on the consent agenda.
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Moved and seconded. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So we have some action items here. And I'll just say, just quickly, my alternate, Commissioner Bob Blunt, will be here 10 or 15 minutes. So just wanted you to know that, Greg.
Thank you.
The first action item is the annexation of Boardman Fire and Rescue MOU. It's been provided to the board. We've got that. Greg, do you want to give us a little bit of background on that and how we need to proceed?
You bet. Just very briefly, board, as you'll recall, last month we had a discussion as it related to the Umatilla County Fire District number 1, and the board.
Greg, I'm going to stop you just a second. I'm sorry. We didn't introduce the folks that we have online. I apologize to that. So you wouldn't mind introducing yourself if you can hear us, those of you that are joining us by Zoom, and I apologize.
So Rich, why don't you go first, if that's okay?
Rich Vile, Vile Fotheringham, here just to monitor the meeting.
Welcome, thank you.
And I see Erica.
Good afternoon, Erica Lassiter, Port of Morrow.
Mr. Chair, I see Megan.
Megan Doshesky, Umatilla County Planning Division Manager, just here to listen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I see Daniela.
Nellie.
Danelle Atolano. Yeah, I'm a reporter for the Hermiston Herald. I'll be covering this meeting.
Thank you. I see no one else, so we're good. All right, so we were talking about item number 1. I'm sorry for the interruption.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members, as you'll recall, last month, we discussed, made a motion and approved Umatilla County Fire District number 1 MOU for fire coverage. This month, we have a memorandum of understanding with the Boardman Fire and Rescue. It's very similar to the MOU that we approved last month, although I would actually say it's a little simpler, but we're looking for a motion for this. It's an important item we need to ensure that we have.
Okay, and there's a note here about Josh Burns, and so any interest in touring the buildings for members of the board?
Well, really quickly, Mr. Chair, if I can, one of the action items you asked us to do at the previous meeting, Mr. Joe Taylor requested a tour of the CDA properties, primarily on the Morrow County side. That was completed, and Mr. Taylor pointed out that there was a warehouse or two along with the 2-story building that may be in good enough shape for future utilization. And
Thank you.
wanted to get the board's input on, is this something you'd like us to consider insuring? With us is Mr. Burns, who could provide additional input if
Okay.
necessary.
All right, thank you. Members of the board, questions or preferences on touring the building, having a conversation with the Josh while he's here?
Do you have a burning desire to talk to us, Josh?
No, sir, but I will say that it's truly up to the board, and if you all would like us to apply coverage to that building or buildings, we can certainly do that. My only concern would be the state of the buildings. When we approach the special district's insurance pool to get that coverage, they may, looking at the age and the condition of the building, say they would prefer to only apply actual cap value coverage instead of replacement cost. Meaning that if there were a loss in one of the buildings, they're not going to pay to rebuild it in the same, shape, condition, quality kind that a new building would be. Instead, they'll say, well, here's what the value of that building would have been minus depreciation, and so here's what we're willing to put in towards it. But that's all after we go after coverage, present the pictures and say, here's what the condition is. So we can add coverage, it just may not be as comprehensive as we would like, so we're gonna make sure the board is aware of that.
Josh, a question. I was with someone from FEMA last week, and we were talking about the disaster in Lahaina. Something that had not crossed my mind prior to that conversation was that the age of many of the buildings that were destroyed included lead paint, and friable asbestos. So we're talking about buildings of that age. It'd be one thing to lose them to fire. It's another thing if we had to clean up some of those building materials that would create a significant liability to us. If you can address that, or
That's a great point, sir. And really that would be a good reason to have property coverage on those buildings, because that would include debris removal. And, when we look at that, and Devin, when the tracers were here, do you remember if they talked about the removal conditions as far as asbestos? So, we do have a relatively new appraisal, and I don't think the report's come back yet. But when we get that down to something, I'll take the special districts and say, hey, these are old buildings, some of them include asbestos. How do we make sure we have an adequate fund to clean that up? Thank you for that.
yeah, I can't imagine that we're the first that have ever done this, but in as much as we represent the public, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least ask the question and give something. Okay, thanks, Josh. I appreciate that a lot.
So, Mr. Chair, on this section, I need really two. One is we need a motion for the Board of Fire and Rescue MOU. And then the second, not necessarily a motion, but direction for us to continue working with Josh on exploring the insurance of those
All right.
subject buildings.
Thanks. Whoever's willing to make the motion, would you include the direction to the director and his staff about that, these items?
Sure, the motion that I was going to defer to a more county person, but I'll go. So, Mr. Chair, I move that we go ahead and do the annexation of Board of Fire and Rescue and continue the discussions with for insurance, insuring the buildings previously discussed.
Second, oh, you got it?
Second.
Thanks. Moved and seconded. Any opposition to that? Hearing none, motion carries and the direction's been given, Director. Next item is something that we've already approved, but we have a process that would include a number of bullet points. Do you want to just touch on those for us?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This very briefly, Board, we just want to share with you what the annexation process will be with Umatilla County Fire District number 1. The first thing we need to do is petition to annex. That needs to be signed by all the property owners. This could include the legal or some other method to describe the property. We're working with Schwab Williamson and White on that. Once that is completed, we would need endorsement by the district board, fire district. From there, then the district board and the CDA will file with the Board of Commissioners in Umatilla County. At which point the commissioners will set and conduct a required hearing. And they then can decide whether to or to not adopt or annex the property into the district. So we just wanted to know there's a process to this and more than just having us sign an MOU, and we're now working through that process.
Okay, you don't need any further authorization or direction, you're just going ahead with that, okay. On item number 3, the insurance policy, that's been provided to us. We asked Elizabeth and Josh to collaborate and bring back for review and adoption. We've already spoken to Josh a little bit. Is we okay with that item?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, during our last meeting, it was suggested that we have a formal policy regarding insurance that would be added to our other policies. And so behind the tab that says policies, you can see the language that has been created. And so we had asked if it's appropriate for the board to approve this new policy that would be added to our policy manual.
Okay, so you're looking for a motion on the
Yes,
policy?
please.
Okay. Looking for a motion on the policy.
I will make a motion to approve the policy as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition to including this policy? Hearing none. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let's see. You're looking for authorization to use a credit card up to, do you have a limit or an amount or anything in mind or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we currently have credit cards that we're able to utilize. However, we do not have a credit card as it relates to our checking account. And so what I'm requesting is authorization to obtain a credit card.
You want a debit card? You want a
Debit
debit card for the checking account?
Correct. The only person who would have access to that would be the assistant to the director. And they would follow the same fiduciary responsibilities we have with our other credit card. The reason we need this thing is we were just out on site. And it became obvious to me, we can't just be out meandering around any longer. We need to have safety vests on. We need to have hard hats on. We need to make sure that we're putting up proper cones, et cetera, around vehicles. And so when I was communicating with Debbie and Emily on this, they said, boy, I'm sure it'd be nice just to have a debit card so we can go online, order this and move through. And I said, well, let's put it on the agenda.
If I had a preference, I would want each of you to be able to have access to that. If not having a card for each of you, knowing that you're going to have to go through an audit and just accept that responsibility. So if I could just adjust what you're asking so that you have one available to each member of the staff, that's what I would prefer as a member of the board. Any conversation about that, any of you? You're okay having a debit card out there?
I just want to make sure that we're changing it from credit card to debit card on number 4. Is that correct? So it'll be debit, not credit.
Changing or adding? Are you, Greg, or are we changing or adding?
We're going to change the word credit card to debit card.
And you're not going to have a credit card? Correct.
We have credit cards.
Okay,
Yeah, let me be very clear on this. We already have credit cards
correct.
that we're able to utilize for travel, et cetera.
Yep.
This would be a debit card effectively for Debbie to use when we need to make purchases.
Emily's out of town, if
Right.
you need it, all of that. Okay, so if we understand what we're talking, if I understand what you're talking about, I'll just reiterate again. You already have a credit card, you're asking for a debit card.
Correct.
I've suggested that you have one for each member of the staff. Debbie's got a question or a concern.
The credit card is only for our clients, so that is for separate from the checking account.
Okay. All right. Lisa, please.
The way the port does it is we have ours by fund, and so we would have a general fund credit card, and it's stored in a fireproof cabinet that's locked, and so whoever needs it in the office to make that purchase just goes and gets it and puts it back.
Yeah, and I can share with you more. I have no desire to be carrying that credit card around. And so we have followed a similar procedure.
Okay, all right. So can you make a motion with respect to this then?
I will make a motion to approve a debit card for CDA And let the staff determine if they want one or two or three of those. And know that you're responsible for them,
For the checking.
for the checking. Yes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition to that indicate by saying aye. Hearing none, motion carries. Item number 5, that's a lot of initials. If you wouldn't mind describing that item to us.
Yes, again, if you'll turn to maps. This is a, Debbie, if you could take us and show us where our current tracks are.
We're on road design contract, right?
Right now, we're on, no, I'm sorry. We are on number 5, PSA, CDA, and CTYR.
I've got a different item 5. I have road design contract.
Idea?
My item number 5 says PSA, CDA, and CTUIR. No PLA has been filed as the tract issue remains unresolved. See, tracked in red, map parentheses, and we've turned, and some of us have printed the tab with numbers.
Yeah.
This one right there.
So we can, if you want to go to road design and then other criteria for projects I can address.
So we're gonna go to number six, and we're still looking at maps or.
Yeah, so let me just share with you, road design contract, one firm, submitted a response. I shared that with you at the last meeting. That was Anderson Perry. We're now in, contract negotiations with them, and I would anticipate next month. We will bring the contract to you for, consideration and approval, at which point in time we will proceed forward with design and hopefully we'll move into construction.
Okay.
So, and Mike, as of right now, just to alleviate concerns, the direction the board has provided me is that of the 7 million, 3.5 is to be invested in Morrow County, 3.5 is to be invested in Umatilla County. And we've directed our staff to make sure that's implemented. So just please know that's the intent of the dollars.
Okay. And you need,
No, I don't need a motion on that. I just want to give you.
all right, it's just under the action tab, so I was confused a little bit there. Are we going back up to number 5 or are we going to 7 now?
Why don't we go to 7? I'll
Okay.
include number 5 with 7.
All right, great.
Okay. So we have received, and Don, don't get in touch with this. We have received a request from the legal counsel of the Confederate Trades of Umatilla to, as part of the transfer of the 4,019 acres, to authorize up to 8 tracts of property be included with the transfer. And if you look up on this map, you can see what was suggested, which was brought forward to me for consideration. I've shared thus far with the legal counsel for CQIR that I do not feel comfortable with more than 3 tracts. However, I said, let's bring it to the board for full consideration. Now, I want to be really clear on several of these. Track number 4 and track number 5 are already included. Okay. The remaining tracks that you see of 1, 2, 8. Are requested. Okay, now here's what I want to show you, and then this will all make more sense. Debbie, flip to the other one. Okay, scale down.
Bray, could these maps be put on the screen for those on the phone to see?
So you can look at share screen here, yeah.
Appreciate that.
There we go. So as our part of our master plan, here's what we've been working towards. And you can see that track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, track 5. Would be included as part of the transfer. Track 5 would be the D mill that would remain with us. Then down below, you can see where track 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, which is way down in the far west side, and 19 would remain with the CDA. And so the question we need direction is, how would you like to divide those tracks up? Here's the thing. We're at a standstill right now. We have an obligation to transfer 4,019 acres to C2IR. They've made a request for the previous tracks to the previous tracks. They made a request for the previous tracks.
And Greg, if I could interject, so my understanding is that we were identifying these tracks as they were identified prior to the CDA taking these properties over in the Army. So that's where we came up with the description of these boundary lines for each of these parcels. So that's the purpose and the reason that we utilized those. The only changes that we added were the parcel, the property line between the D mill site, we think that would be going to the CDA.
So Don, we're talking about going back to what was once the case. How did we get, Greg, how did we get to where we had less of these parcels or less of them delineated? If you've got that information available to you.
Yeah, I feel a little uncomfortable proceeding forward. It's not an area of expertise for me.
Okay.
My understanding, board, is as part of this transfer, we have 19 tracks available for redesign within the property.
Okay.
We had suggested that tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4 which 4 is the Cleveland property, would be transferred to C2I. The remaining tracks 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 would remain with the CDA. And you can see the reason we made our request, it's simply for ease of partitioning in the future. Now, I would share with you, there's probably an overabundance of tracks for CDA. There's an overabundance, but at the end of the day, it also leaves the CDA with greater flexibility.
And Greg, that's the same reason that we would identify those tracks for the tribe, the flexibility. So when we conducted the survey, that's what our survey suggested. They looked at the pre-existing parcel lines, they follow those same parcel lines. And so is there a limit between the number of parcels that can be identified between what the CDA has and the tribe?
I do believe that.
So it really doesn't matter then in that case, if I would understand. And I think the other part is that the Cleaver property, of course, will be sold to the Cleavers, correct? And then half of the proceeds go to the CDA, half to the tribe.
Correct.
So I mean, from our standpoint, we can go, I mean, we did 3 parcels, we can go do the lot line adjustments or whatever we have to do ourselves in the county. But we thought it might be fair this time to do them at the same time that the CDA is doing their parcel adjustments to get it all done. And the level of survey that we had to go through was higher than what was required by the county, because these actual effect surveys are required for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Department of Interior to transfer them across. So that's one of the reasons that we did that. And so we can go either way, but we just kind of follow the existing parcel line. That's what our intent was.
Mr. Chair, I'm sure if you, everything Mr. Sampson said is my understanding as well.
So we have a request to do a process that at least one of our members is going to have to go through anyway. And by doing it preemptively, it becomes more convenient for the rest of the board. Is that another way of saying it, or? I heard some convenience in your language.
This is an awkward situation for me because I answer to the full board. And so what I would share with you from a CDA perspective, we want to keep as many tracks as possible. From a partner perspective, allowing what CGAR is requesting would be an act of being a good neighbor. But it would take away from our ability to maneuver in a more simple manner.
That's confusing to me. So, I mean,
We have 19 tracks.
okay, 19 tracks.
And 1, 2, 3, 4.
So the tribe gets 1, 2, and 3, Cleaver gets 4, the other 15 go to the CDA.
And so who's on the line?
That sounds like
That was Dan Hester, sorry for, right, so I think that the total number of tracks that were allowed under the property line adjustment process is the number of tracks that exist. That's 19, so that's what sets the ceiling. And so what is being proposed here is that, looking at that map, the map that was up there before, is that the tribe would get 3 tracks, 1, 2, and 3, those that are noted in the black ink. Number 4 would go to Cleaver, and then the other 15 tracks would go to the CDA, which just based again upon the prior conversation, the group conversation we had between tribal staff and CDA staff, including lawyers, we allocated it differently and much more evenly. It was 12 or 11, 8, and 1, I thought, or something like that, where the tribe was getting that map there. You can see that the tribe would be getting 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So what is that? 8 parcels. Cleaver would get 1, and then the remaining, which would be 10, would go to the CDA.
Let me be really clear. So the 19 tracks, 1 will go to Cleveland. Then 8 would go to C2IR under the request. And the remaining then would come to CDA. So almost a 50-50 split. That would greatly assist CQIR in their future development. It would take away opportunities for CDA.
So I'm really confused about this, and bear with me for a minute. I know Bob Walter's not here, but Tamara is here. Can you give us a little planning 101 really quick and talk about parcels and lot lines versus? I assumed that the transfer would be a legal description, which would include all of the tracts that the tribes would be getting, and that we are not trying to move lines and partition. Is that correct?
Again, I'm in an awkward situation.
Okay.
That was my understanding.
Okay.
What's now being requested is that additional tracks with the land transfer.
And
Go with
the tract word is new to me. So is that just because we're used to dealing with large parcels and then we're going in and partitioning those? Can you answer, Tamara?
Sure. I'll just so maybe
Okay.
But in a nutshell, what I hear is that it's simpler to do a property investment. But and it it's more efficient. But it's finding a need. At some point, when you create more than 3 parcels, and again, a little more based on and then later we can come in and So, and they might have more data. They might have a higher standard or something, I don't know.
Megan, can you answer those questions?
I wasn't able to hear Tamara, but I can give the county's perspective for planning purposes. So basically the CDA has 19 legal units of land. And so one thing that I asked to see during this property line adjustment is where those 19 units of land are going to be. So I think that's kind of what's up for discussion right now. It really allows the CDA flexibility. If you decide where you want those lines to be early on, it could prevent you, or not prevent you, but it would preclude you from having to do a partition in the future as long as those lines are where whatever developer needs to see them. So if you wanted to partition one of those lots at a future date, you'd go through the land use process to do so, but maybe that developer doesn't need a smaller lot. I don't know if that helps clarify it.
Thank you, Fred, is there anything you wanna weigh in on this?
I think just, to me, what pops in my head is the acres that was committed to the tribe stays the same or unchanged. It's going to change, then we need to do maybe a survey or somehow adjust it. And also especially law 5, that some discussion on development by CDA, but part of that, then if I can have it.
So, Mr. Chair, the final thing I would add is when we negotiated with C2FR, it was understood that track 4 would go to Cleaver and that CTIR would receive track 1, 2, and 3.
And
Since
these negotiations were way back when.
correct.
Yeah.
And that was the memorandum that was signed by both parties.
Right.
Since that time, we've received communication from C2IR's legal counsel, making the request for additional tracks.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, as we heard from Umatilla County, if we do that, it takes away CTIR, it takes away CDA's flexibility in navigating real estate transactions. Okay. On the other hand, it allows us to be a good neighbor to C2AR.
Is there any, Don, is there a way that we can have this both ways?
Well, I think, basically we're saying that we looked at the original lot lines, that's what we proposed that. And I think it would just basically transfer the cost of any future, I guess, lot line adjustment. That's what would be the outcome. I guess we could sit down, if you wanted to, Greg, we could sit down with Greg, myself, our planners, and Elizabeth to try to come up with a kind of a reasonable solution that kind of finds common ground.
Okay, because I don't think there's anyone that doesn't want to be a good neighbor.
Absolutely.
But we also don't want to, I don't want to make a decision that I'm this ignorant about. So is it okay if you continue to work with if we direct staff to work with the CTUIR and Elizabeth to help us get a resolution that works for the CTUIR and does not encumber the CDA going forward? Is that?
And Mr. Chair, I'm very pleased that's your recommendation because I think it makes tremendous sense.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that, or do you just, would you like a vote for direction, or?
I'm sorry, I have my back.
Are you just okay?
I'm very comfortable with just direction.
Okay. I think you've heard our consensus. Anybody have something dissimilar to what we've been discussing here? Okay, go ahead then.
Okay.
All right.
I would add only other one thing is that we would like to also look at the legal fees. I know that in the agreement, there's kind of a blank left in terms of our payment of legal fees for the, land, planning costs, so I think we can sit down and kind of prorate those accordingly. We can come up with a solution for that as well.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, at our previous meeting, we anticipated, and I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but in the ballpark of 60 to 75,000. And at the last meeting, CTR shared they were good for up to 30 of that amount, about where we are right about now, though. And so the remaining cost would go with us, but why don't we sit down and have that conversation?
Okay. All right. Everybody good on that? Okay. Perfect.
And so, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, I will be setting up a time to meet with you, Dawn, and your team. We'll gather some of our folks, we'll sit down and work through this issue.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks, Don. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate both of you. And Dan, thank you as well. We appreciate you being here. Item number 7, and this speaks to what we just covered about projects. So do you want to touch on that, Craig?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, if it'd be okay, what I'd really love is to see if we can move 7 down to old business. Let you have a chance to share and thoughts you may have, and then allow Fred and I to move into the master planning portion of this, and also talk about criteria for projects.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. If we're ready to move to old business, then let's see, we have a little bit on the UEC tracks. Would you address that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, a few things. This has been a very, very busy month. We're finalizing our easements that we've agreed to with Umatilla Electric Cooperative. We anticipate today I will be finally signing the easements you folks have passed a motion on, and Robert tomorrow will be signed and they'll be filed with the county, and that will be completed. In addition to that, board wanted to share with you. We've had multiple meetings with multiple entities. We've been on site or in communication with a company called One Energy. We've been in communication and on site with a company called CRH America, which is Ready Mix. We've been communicating with Mr. Aylett, who is a neighbor of ours, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. We've been in communication with Navajo Power, which is a joint project with C2IR. We've been in communication and on site with TransCanada, communicating, and then we've also been on site with Quisenberry Construction, that's looking at doing an energy project. The other thing, the committee, Mr. Chair, I want to share with you is we've been on site with the iron workers, the labor group, the iron workers, along with the operating engineers and the Hermiston School District. They're looking at putting together the Hermiston School District as a pre-apprenticeship program that would feed into an apprenticeship program, which then could feed into future work. The iron workers came out, and when they did their walkthrough, they literally pulled us aside and said, we think this is the location for a regional training center. They're originally looking at Pasco, but they believe, based upon what we have out on site, that we'd be a better location. So what I shared with them is the board's open to communication, ask them to put together a proposal and have it ready for me to bring back to you folks, along with them to come introduce themselves. But it does look like the iron workers are going to be entering into communication on the regional training center. The operating engineers also looking at that opportunity. They're a little further along than the iron workers. Again, I asked them to put together a proposal that I could bring forward.
Who is that? That's
The operating engineers,
Okay.
heavy equipment operators, and that's in conjunction with the Hermiston School District. At the end of the day, really the goal of the Hermiston School District is to create a regional training center for pre-apprenticeship opportunities that would be available for Morrow County students, Umatilla County students, even students over in Arlington, et cetera, but a regional pre-apprenticeship program.
Greg, is there any possible way, and maybe Michelle can weigh in here? Are we gonna get any of the rolling stock that is associated with this transfer? And is any of that in the kind of condition that the operators could use that at some time in the future? And I'm seeing Debbie nod, and so I'm looking to any of you that know
So
more
Mr.
about that.
Chair, the equipment that out there is your property and it's your assets. And there's several overhead operating cranes that really are of particular interest to the iron workers and the operating engineers. And they would like to make that an asset that they'd be able to utilize. So
So that's a firm maybe, yeah,
they're pretty excited about it.
okay,
Um,
great. Michelle, anything else?
I couldn't hear most of your question.
Okay,
Anyway, those assets are now CDA assets and the Hermiston School District in collaboration with these folks are putting a proposal together to bring forward to you. I can share this with you. The Oregon Legislature has allocated 2.5 million to the Hermiston School District for the development.
who has allocated that?
The Oregon Legislature.
Okay,
To the Hermiston School District for the development of pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs.
thank you.
And so, not only do they have these two entities that are moving forward with their equipment that they bring out. In my understanding, Lisa probably could expound more on this, but the operating engineers at one time were up here.
They did a lot of work at the port. They actually operated up on site where the Stage Center is now. But they did training in this whole area, and actually the steel fabrication company that is planning to move here. He came back here because he was a trainee at that training operation. I would suggest that we get the ports workforce development team in connection to, because they're working regionally and run a workshop for Eastern Oregon for high school and college training.
We're on it. We're on it.
Michelle, please.
Sheriff, I can't hear everything back here, but I have bringing kids. Under 15 out to the UMTL area, you can't do that, not by many people on that area. That are through PQ and PTA, it's in their easement equitable services part of the.
Correct.
Okay,
So I mean, you have a company that comes in and out here, they can't go to the.
That's correct.
Out there for the.
So,
All
Mr.
right.
Chair, what we're looking at is a pre-apprenticeship program for seniors who would meet that age requirement.
okay. Seniors who meet the age requirement is what we're talking about then. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
so the tribe has a workforce development department as well as the Travel and Employment Rights Office. And we have for the state of Oregon, we have a 60-mile radius area that we do travel preference for employment, and particularly with ODOT. But I think we'd like to be able to connect up our workforce development with this effort. So I'll connect you with the people at the tribe's workforce development.
Perfect. We're on that. We're on that. So if I hear the board correctly, the port workforce development folks, tribal workforce development folks, we need to make sure that we're not allowing anyone under the age of 18. And what we're probably going to need to do is just coordinate a large meeting so everyone's rowing in the same direction,
Yep, including BMCC.
including the MCC.
Yep, okay. All right.
Yeah,
that's-
Mr. Chair,
that's
if you
great.
want to share, these are a lot of tasks that are gonna keep us busy, but we'll move on. The last thing we want to let you know is, we're working with the Oregon Department of Transportation. This is a project that's been assigned to Emily. She's working closely with IRZ, and in a moment, I'll ask them to give you an update. As I transition to our final items, I want to share with you, one of the best things I've done in my career is asking Fred to work with me. This has been a huge step up. And we're now working towards a master plan. You can see that it compared to the final maps there. We're working to a master plan and a strategic plan. Again, this is why we have folks sitting the way they are. So we want to be able to show you that, in the last, number of months, we've been able to work with Umatilla Electric Cooperative to ensure the power easements that they're gonna need for future opportunities. We've been able to work with Umatilla County to designate, 120 acres for, recharge efforts. One of the things I want to point out on that, and I want to make this clear to the public, because I don't think that's clear at the last meeting. Until you folks give me direction otherwise, we are not doing anything to touch groundwater or aquifers or anything that has to do with our agricultural efforts. And so one of the things that I'd ask Fred to do is make sure that any and all activities that we would be conducting out on that property do not negatively impact our water, our sources of water. So I just want to make sure I get that on the.
Okay, are you gonna continue on that for a second if I could interrupt? Okay. While we're on water, which could go on for days. A relatively new mark on the maps is the part that I think I understand as the area for the aquifer recharge.
Yes, sir.
And John, would you help us understand, and for everyone here, what that is in terms of acreage and intent and so forth, so that everybody's clear on that? We've got people from the press and so forth, so if you wouldn't mind, then, Mike. Yeah, there you go.
Each guy. Thank you. So we're looking at 120 acres and it is, I think it's number, is it 16 or 14? 14.
Yep.
Okay. It's the, in the yellow area with the, orange hatch that we're still through it. And so that'll be a recharge basin. And underneath that basin is a huge aquifer that we're wanting to, recharge, put water back into the aquifer. And by digging, testing things like that, that could affect that in a negative fashion. So we want to protect that. I don't think this map has the blue whale, what we refer to it as, but.
The well is in the yellow, so you can see like a yellow dash line
Oh, yeah.
on the map.
Didn't see that, okay, yeah, so there's the yellow dotted line that kind of goes around the new sea, goes into Morrow County and Umatilla County, crosses both Interstate 82 and 84. So it's a very large area and we're wanting to rebuild that and we're going to recharge it with that 120 acres and we'll build a pond in that area as well.
Okay, so that's really helpful. So you're intending to build a pond. Will there be injection wells or just a pond that lets it just seep down to the aquifer?
Jim would probably be the best person to answer that question. So the red on there is actually the basin. So right now, we have it'll be 6 basins. It'll be about 15 foot deep. So basically, we'll take over
15.
Yeah. So it will just go down to the ground like you're talking about. We'll take the river not putting into the good stamping ground. Well.
And how many acres did you say that was, Gib, on the red mark?
Probably each one of those will be roughly about 3 acres or so. So in the 15 acre range will be where we're actually trading.
15 of 120.
Yes.
Okay.
So we also have the monitoring wells. If you see the couple of yellow dots on that, the current monitoring wells, because we'll have to monitor out the amount of that water going through there. So we need to detect those as well. And then because we're moving the dirt, you're gonna have 15 acres worth of dirt that we moved off of that we have to peel off of that. So we probably 30 acres of dirt there plus the yard for the equipment.
Okay, so all of that, I guess, to ask Gib and John if there would be any other building going on out there. Is that an industrial site or not? Or is it maybe? So maybe. Okay, all right. Thank you. That's really helpful to me to know, what is going to be needed out there, what that's going to look like. So I appreciate that.
There is some misunderstanding about what recharge is because there is really two One of them what we call aquifer recharge, which is what we are doing.
Yes.
Another one called ASR, which is like City of Pendleton is doing, City of Hermiston trying to do. Somehow you put water or clean it to drink it, national clean water standard. And then you inject it 1,000 feet or 1,200 feet, deep, and that water will stay around the well. This one is actually they call aquifer recharge right now, ASR, aquifer storage and recovery. With this, we have done the testing. Again, we are going to be, again, Umatilla County is going to do extensive testing to make sure there is no issues. Immediately to the south of this, maybe about a mile, we have done this exact same thing with the state of Oregon. That when we did a recharge, we found the water went down, we did all kinds of testing that by doing that, it met the clean water standard. Because you go through 60, 70 feet of sand and gravel, the same way that most municipal do that. So this would be a clean water when you put it in, no contamination. So, but there's going to be, that's why they're doing extensive testing to just even verify that in this location, about a mile north, it's the same thing happening. But the water will be then, they're taking water during non-consumptive use. Then you would make it available during year-round. Is that correct? Yeah. Year-round for other uses as you see fit.
Let me make sure I understand. So we're doing aquifer recharge on the 15 acres that it might include all of the 120. That is not the ARS. And if I say injection well, is that the right term with that?
Aquifer recharge, AR is the correct.
Okay.
It's AS, because I hear quite a bit of, we're gonna do the ASR, that's not what we're doing.
Okay, and then the site, you say there's a site about a mile to the north.
South.
To the south.
we have
Oh, I
done
thought I
it
heard you say
years
north.
ago.
I'm sorry.
We've done it a few years ago, and also for last 30, 40 years, the farmers have been doing that.
Right.
About 3 miles from this side by saying similar process.
Okay, and then
Successful.
I have heard about a plume out here. Is that something that is going to be cleaned as part of this process as well, or cleaned?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the plume.
Oh, I may be mistaken. I had
The
assumed.
water that we bring from Columbia River.
Yeah.
And the construction for it, John, you can talk about it, but the construction began in a couple of months. And the first phase of it will be done by March. So this is happening. What you do, when you apply water, this water stay within that whale. That's why we have monitoring wells to make sure how far does it go, how fast does it go, and all of that.
Just raw river water into the pond, seeping
Clean
down.
it up.
All right, great.
To meet the environmental requirements of clean water.
Great. Jim, did you have something else?
Yeah, I want to go back to that, sorry, Chairman. When you said it's an industrial site, the only building on that, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner, but right now, there would be the site, the infrastructure for the recharge. There'll be a small building on the kind of the corner of the northeast corner of it there. That'll be a control room basically for the monitoring the equipment going through there. And then there'll be a yard there that we'll have some spare parts on. So there won't be any big buildings or anything like that. It won't be an industrial site and stuff. It would be just the equipment for the recharge.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, I didn't mean to drag us into the weeds. Michelle, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's,
Those are contract, director and get them that are doing modeling now. Those that are modeling. So that should be. a bit fun.
And in addition to that, under, great, direction, we are retaining another hydrogeologist on behalf of CDA to even address that further. So we will give, we want to make sure it's our clarity for everybody. So we are doing that.
Okay, great.
So, Mr. Chair, just one last thing, and if it's okay, really would like to turn to Fred, for part of our master planning. We have created an app that you can put on your phone that can show you the overlays as we progress, as the board makes decisions. And so, if you want to take a minute, share with everyone this app, it'd be really good for everyone to put this onto their phone or onto their computer, so you would have them available when you're visiting with folks.
sorry, it's like not wrong. This is what it looks like when you pull up that phone. It looks the same as this. And it just, when you're driving out there on a property, a little blue dot appears and shows exactly where you're at in relation to the map. So you can see the different areas.
What's the name of the app?
It's,
We, Commissioner, if you're interested, we will get our IT to put it on your app and authorize you. Everybody should be authorized to be used. Because this map, again, if I may, we will work with you to put it on your.
But as it's. So right now, right here, you'll be able to see where the monitoring wells are, the CDA wells, you can see where the UEC proposed easements are, the track boundaries, and then the CDA tracks only. And as we develop more information, our intent is to create more overlays, but we'll have overlays based upon what the needs are.
Okay.
So if I may, Greg, can begin?
Please.
So we've been engaged last, a little bit over 2 months. So within that, we are meeting every week with the CDA staff and our engineer of record. All the work that has been discussed will be discussed within this regular meeting, which is Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. And there are deliverable and action items that whatever we hear, it will be discussed, and we assign people to kind of get it done and bring it back to Greg, and he's the presenter. One of the first things that we have noticed was that when we started, there were lots of maps. Nobody knew where it came from, and it was a lot of is it accurate? It's not accurate. So we started with the base map, which is if it has Columbia Development Authority and IRD on it, that now is the official map for anybody that needs it. We will provide it to you. And please do not use the old map that nobody knew where it is. But this is an official survey, accurate. The other thing is, as Emily was mentioning, every time, let's say we do work with the tribe and we develop the lots or tracks, and we agree, then that goes into this map. Then when we put that in yours, it would be live. Anytime there is any change, you will see it here. You don't have to go, look, where is the new map? Where is my information? And you can click on any one of these items, it gives you information like acres and agreements and the dates and all of that. So this is a really, really good start for the, meaningful master. Because before, we didn't know. So, besides our weekly meeting, and development of this big map was a big step toward the development of master plan. Based on discussion with Greg and, the staff, what we have heard, there was lots of, about resource issues. How much research, again, going back to where's our priority for who needs to locate here? But in order to know that, we have to know what is our resources that is true. Before we joined, we heard lots of information. We have all kinds of this, all kinds of that. And then we had about a month we spent sitting down and really determining what is actual or close to actual. And it was a good thing because honestly, what it was 5 years ago when you had discussions and you went and talked to Umatilla Electric or any other people, 5 years ago and today, this is different world. If you go to, let's say, I don't want to bash Grant County. What they told you 10 years ago is still probably here because of all the development, all resources, especially the last 2-3 years became constrained. So we have a new information that we will put together for your review. Where is my water and how much do I have and where and who and all of that. We are developing that. Where is my sewer? Or what are we going to do sewer? Who's going to take? If there is a, for example, an industrial company, how do we know how much is going to go where? The same thing with the power. The power was eye-opening because you all know, and Commissioner Minho probably knows better than anybody, we have used a lot of power within Umatilla Electric. So we have to be realistic and work very, very closely with them. And we have those numbers for your review. The same thing with the road and so on. So,
Really big. I want to highlight something again, and Fred hit it right on the head. Depending upon who you talk to, you're getting different answers as to what these resources are and how much is there. And so Fred undertaking this conversation, really nailing this down, is going to be beneficial for all 5 of you as you're trying to make decisions on what to allow, what not to allow, how to proceed, et cetera.
Fred, are you going to use AI so that we can just nail it?
AI. I'm master of AI. Anything you want to know about AI? I embarrass my staff. I always talk about it. Yes. It's in the meeting. The other part of it, what we have done, we developed a matrix of 72 resource requirements. And we have anybody that is coming to CDA say, hey, you're interested in locating, great. Here's some resources, you need to answer that before we get engaged. This is a new discipline that is part of the CDA and staff to deal with it. And part of it again, well, what do you need during construction? What do you need year 1, 2, and then finally, how many acres? What's your number of employees? Raw water, potable water, industrial wastewater, how many gallons, and all of that. Again, every 4 of these matrices need to be filled out.
So we really in the read, this is what we thought we heard you say a month or 2 ago. You wanted information as it relates to these matrix, so that's where we're trying to proceed.
For a little background there, when clients come to us, they tell us what they want to know what we have available. So their surveys to us are, what do you have available? And we say 6,000 gallons a minute, and they'll say, well, we need 5,000 of that. So they take 5,000 and they really only need 500.
Right.
So that's why you have to get down to what they say they need. And the first time you're talking to a site selector or an engineer, and they don't tell you what they really need, you'll find out what they need a year into the process, because they're still want to oversubscribe to what is available. Am I right?
We totally, that's what, especially when we give this resource requirement, they have to give it to their engineer, that's not buying the stuff. They do, and we have seen, hey, 200 acre between 40, 30 acre, because now the reality is, because we have to determine where is your steward going to go, and how much, who is going to serve you, and all of that. We have, so anyway, I think we have been dealing in detail with all of that and providing that information to Greg, presented to you, and the tools that the staff need on a day-to-day basis. So I think we are very excited. There is, by doing that, we feel like there is a lot of realistic opportunity and realistic expectation. We feel like there is something there to offer to the industry, but in a realistic manner. We will present all of that to you. And then again, any of you need that map, we will see newest thing and we will work with you to put it on your iPhone. That's, is there anything
It's
else
awesome.
you need to add?
Again, Mr. Chair, board members, having IRZ work with us has been absolutely fabulous. I really feel like we're building a good team. There's gonna be additional teammates that we're gonna need to talk about in the future, but that'll be in the future. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Why don't we go to item number 3 first for the economic development updates by the CDA members, and whoever would like to go first with that. I don't want to put David on the spot necessarily, but he's down at the other end, so. Any economic development update you'd like to share?
Yeah, so Dave, this is just a chance to share economic development stuff going on in the county.
Nothing particular that, I mean, from the county's relates to the CDA. Is that what you're looking for?
Oh, just the county. The county is what we're talking about.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, let's, we have more on, they're the driving engine of the economic development for our county, so. I guess. And, approved or not approved, that we worked up a agreement. Yesterday with Weston for $230 million, expand rehab, I guess we call that, they're redoing. Not that we're doing, so we have an agreement in principle with them for the credits, that was good news. And have done Morrow County. And they believe in Morrow County and they were there, and we got a thing done there, so that was encouraging and good. The other thing is, of course, that about the county did the agreement with them for a data center out on Main Beach. That was good to get them. And for those handling the other data centers, so that's the main thing. But I can think of it more.
Thank you, Dave.
So we have, I want to save the date for everybody, November 1st, and Jim's probably thinking. We're doing the groundbreaking ceremony for the water project, November 1st. So that's the first day after the irrigation season. We couldn't do any work until the irrigation season is over with, so we'll put that on the calendar. More to follow, we will have times and everything else on that. We also did another enterprise zone in Utah County, partnered with the city of Utah. we're a data center, not named Amazon, so, as we like to say. So, we're looking forward to partnering with them. It's, the CDA Corporation is the name of that one. And that is now public, obviously. So, the other thing, probably the most important thing we had going on was, we just finished up our county fair. And we had a record number in auctions for our kids, over $1.25 million in sales. So, yeah, so thank you to everybody on that, because that was huge, so.
Awesome.
I don't have a whole lot, I'm just getting ready for roundup. That's always the big weekend. No, we're advancing our solar project with Navajo Power. And we're working with a international energy company called AES. And so there'll be one of our offtake partners for the power project. And of course, that's one of the reasons that we look at this property, we know that we're in the responsibility to manage wildlife. And one of the issues that we looked at is that, of course, that takes responsibility of our wildlife staff, our resources at the tribe. That, again, the idea that these are beneficial uses to the entire county, community, region. So that's one thing. And so one of the ideas of this solar project is we identified primarily on our property and making sure that we can comply with any type of environmental standards and wildlife protection standards that will be in place. So we're vetting out this company, AES. They're one of the largest global energy companies in the world, and they are working not only with our tribe, but about 7 other tribes across the west. So we're vetting them out, we're developing the project, we're continuing to expand our letter of intent and some terms with them, try looking at how much percentage ownership. We're also talking with the Biden administration about some of their Department of Energy investments and actually cap in lieu of tax credit, because as a tribe, we don't benefit from tax credit. But now there's a new policy and program in place where the tribe can actually receive those tax benefits and use those in lieu of tax credits. So that's going to be a huge opportunity for us to provide capital into the project and increase our level of ownership. But again, that's all part of the planning process we're getting to. Our goal is hopefully to come here within the next couple of months. I know they've already talked to staff, starting to vet out the opportunities out here and kind of lay out some scenarios for the CDA to consider. So that's one thing. We're also looking at property in the Tri-Cities area. There's a large effort there with Representative Newhouse, about 30,000 acres of prime land along the Columbia River, from the Tri-Cities all the way down to Wallula. And so we're in the process of developing legislation so the tribe can recover some of that land in our Aboriginal homeland along the Columbia. So many of you might know Howard Indian Park or the park there right in Kennewick. So we're looking at select parcels there. So that's another opportunity. So we actually demonstrate our ability to work with the counties and the ports here in the CDA. And that has allowed us to demonstrate what we can do in the Tri-Cities area. So we have a very good working relationship with the Port of Kennewick, and they helped develop there. We're looking at some investments in terms of the property next to Toyota Center. You might know of that development there. So we're exploring that right now. But that's about it right now. Just getting ready for round.
So Don mentioned working with the local tier. I talked to him about the property just to the west of us that we, the status of that is it's owned by the Corps of Engineers, going to be transferred to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And hopeful CCOI was very supportive of the project that we proposed there. And hopefully they'll be able to muscle BIA a little bit to make sure that we can get a park there. It's a lease or a cooperative agreement, something that we can do there to get that outdoor complex accomplished. So that's something we've been working on since 2010. So a long time in the works, and maybe it will happen. You can see we're well underway on our construction here. Sorry, we didn't give you all a notice that you had to go around, but it's going to get better, I promise. And we're working on rail connections that will go into Terminal 1 and Terminal 3. New improvements will be dredging Terminal 1 and putting new equipment at Terminal 3. So they'll all be intermodal facilities here. State Center, if you didn't see on Facebook, you can now see the outline of the expansion up there. That's the new 15,000 square foot addition. Pretty excited about that. Elephant in the room always is the DEQ and the nitrate issue. We just today received a new draft of the MAL with DEQ. We'll be reviewing that with our training in the morning and hoping to find some kind of solutions there so that we can get that document signed and keep moving forward. We submitted our application to federal EPA for the WIPIA program. It's a $432 million loan, and very hopeful that we'll start hearing something back from them in the next. I'm anxious, but I found out we've only submitted it a week ago, so I need to be patient. But hopefully within a month, we'll hear back on that. That's it right now.
Thank you. There are so many things going on. I spent a few days at the Port of Long Beach last week. Arguably the largest port in North America. They're right there with New York and New Jersey. So if the Port of Umatilla has a couple of acres on our container dock, the Port of Long Beach has 3,200 acres with 9 terminals, and we were able to take both a water side and a land side tour of that. I want to share with you one of the container terminals that they have. They have more cranes that are 175, so 17 stories tall, more than I can count, working a single ship at the same time. The operator comes over and picks up 4 containers at one time, places it on a platform, and then another crane that does not have an operator, that is fully robotic and has been programmed to go to that location, comes to the location and picks up a single container, puts it on a vehicle about the size of a container chassis that you'd see behind a semi-truck without the tractor on it. When that vehicle feels the weight, and the weight is relieved from the cables on the crane releases the container. The vehicle then, without an operator, goes to a pre-programmed location in a no personnel zone in one of these hundreds of acres that they have for the container yard. Goes there, and another crane picks it up and puts it in the stack that you've seen, hundreds of stacks along the coast in these larger ports. And then a crane with an operator places that onto a truck. So operators are only used on the cranes that are taken directly off the ship or directly onto the truck. And this was a number that just boggled my mind. 18,000 semis per day coming out of Long Beach. So that's where our stuff comes from. I had an opportunity to meet with people from Fiji, American Samoa, the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands, or Saipan, Guam. Talked a lot about typhoons, ports responding to disasters through FEMA and so forth. It gave me ideas about whether or not we, Lisa and I, have the readiness to be able to address what could be an inevitable catastrophe with a Cascadia event. We have to think about those kinds of things and not be the port that isn't ready for that. It was just met with the Taiwan International Ports Corporation. That's all of the ports on the island of Taiwan. So, I mean, I'm drinking out of a fire hose, taking in all of this. I'm intrigued by what Don is saying with the Navajo Energy group and all that we can do to make this more green and so forth. So Long Beach was, way about that, and lots of money to do things that reduce our carbon footprint and so forth. All of you know that we continue to build with data centers and so forth. We've doubled the taxable asset base of the region in the last decade or so. That continues on up to the point where we begin to bump up against resources and so forth. Among the most exciting things that we're working on is this right here with you, with this team, all of the partners that we have here, Fred and his team. And I've always looked up to Greg, or at least for the last 20+ years, and Debbie. But I want to say one more thing that I'm really excited about. I had a meeting that included Emily, and what a good choice that was, Greg. And so thank you, Emily, for being part of the team, and we look forward to, the future going forward. And I think that's all that we have. You have an item number 1 here, message from the chairman, so I just covered that. So
You did, Mr. Chair. I do just have 1 or 2 last thoughts, if that'd be appropriate. So again, I want to share with you what you can anticipate in September, our next meeting, that we'll be bringing a full budget report for what we anticipate our budget needs to be for the upcoming year. As we head into September, we operate on a federal fiscal year, and so you can anticipate that budget. Also, because we are an ORS 190, we need to be undertaking independent financial audits, not relying on the Port of Morrow and their audits. So please know that we're in the process now of identifying an auditor. We'll be going out for an RFP on that, and then we'll be bringing who we believe is the right choice to you for confirmation. So those are 2 items. The other thing, gang, is just remember the clock is ticking. We do have an outstanding letter of credit that needs to be addressed in March. And we also have a commitment to fund preservation of coastal resources, both of which are going to require some form of revenue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
all right, thank you. I saw Steve Williams come in, and we had introductions before you got here, so welcome, Steve. Always good to have you here.
Sorry.
And again, we want to thank Lisa for her hospitality and everything that the Port of Morrow does. Michelle, you had one final thing. Why don't you take this? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to give an update on some of the things the Army is doing, kind of post transfer. We've got the lifeline that's on the working trail that are out there, and it's a hard copy in the digital. So distribute to the folks who are actively involved, and that's okay. We normally would send it out to board, but like Commissioner Sampson, if I could give it to your staff and to and Tamara, and then I think for Morrow for you until I just have to give it to you unless you want to get contact for that. And then the first one CDA. Well, one thing to keep in mind is that it is part not for public distribution, so it's because part of texting trail is put it on there. I mean, there are people that would say, "Oh, look, let's go out to the wildlife area and see what we can do that." So part of it is to help protect the areas of the trail, and then of course the other part of that is we have a section for preserving for people to visit. So we would be. But I think the museum music trail, I think everybody knows how the wildlife does. It gives use drum, and then they do basically kind of like a radar. They map the contours. And you can also get the cross section. Again, they were out doing, I didn't see the report, I can't talk on the computer, but the people who are doing it show that little bit there, but it's something that we did like section show. Here's how we did massive weeds in so I'll get that out. I'm gonna try to get much everybody on the state. Also, Yeah, these signs around the corner. Around, where the. That is right on the track. So there's the infiltration gallery, comes from around water treatment plant. Where they signs around the market, and then also signs around the landfill. We're also doing GPS, the land use control area, like obviously, you know what that is, but like the landfill, there's an area up in the north part of the wildlife area, which is that as well as. And it's an area where, rural county, that will be getting all this done. So that will help to get on your map for planning purposes. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you wanted, I have offered this at times in the past, but now that it's getting really real for planning, if you want me to come out and talk to the land use control, yeah, and do the environmental side, you know, or section, whatever you guys want.
Mr. Chair. I think that'd be excellent. That's an excellent suggestion. Maybe at a future board meeting before we get into late fall, maybe we could do a visit out there.
Okay.
With the board.
Yeah, either at the depot or we come here, we would go. Now. So we have to do it again. Any other questions?
Thank you, Michelle. Anybody else from the public want to make a comment at this point? Yeah, Ryan, please.
The original version of the agenda for work session for master planning on it, is that happening today or?
It's changed.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So we sent out a, guys, should have got it. But, that will change that we have a feature.
Okay.
Thank you. John, please.
I think in regards to that, I know that, we talked about the planners, meeting on a regular basis, taking time been able to participate in the planning efforts, but I want to make sure that as the planning effort goes forward, we have our tribal representatives engaged in that, we should be copied on those. I think the other thing is we look at the master plan, it was pretty evident that Center Point was the assessment of what they determined to be the type of industry and the type of weighted family job sector that would be brought in as a result of the development. So I know that we're talking about here's the existing resource, so you have to understand what that is. That the range of 72 different considerations of resources and needs of the company allow you to kind of match that. However, at what point do you begin to assess either feasibility of these types of businesses coming in, what the market is? And that's what they're pretty clearly in Chicago. They said, look, here's all the assets you have, here's the type of industries you can bring in because of those assets, and really how you allocate those over this master plan, over time, usually is very important consideration. So I'm really interested to find out when we'll begin to start looking at that. Because, you can get an industry that comes in and creates, like Amazon, you build this big data center, uses water, brings in tax base, but produces a very good job. And so I guess that's some discussion I think that we need to have as we start developing, this matrix of economic impact, as well as the reason. So I know that this is a very good step forward. I'm really glad that we're just moving that direction. I think the other part that I want to continue to have us think about is the ESG. As you recall, what the company in Center Point did is identify their environmental, social, and governance considerations. So I think that's an important part of our development, so that we have these long-term goals. Short-term goals are great, and I know that we have a very important budgetary constraint right now that we have to get to, and I agree with you keep bringing that up, is that at what point do we put any resources into the CDA in order for us to continue because we don't have a big, bankroll right now, and that's a concern, so. I hope that we can start thinking about, what kind of contribution might be needed, to be able to bankroll this CDA in the near term. And I think Fred's very interested in talking about it. So I just want to bring that up, thank you.
And thank you for reminding us of that visit to Center Point, and Ryan, thanks again for helping set that up for us. I think Fred, it'd be excellent if your team could go out there and see what we saw at Joliet, Illinois, and if you're inclined, Ryan's right here, so that'd be great. Craig, it looks like you have one other item.
Yeah, this is Mr. Chair, just following up on what Don is raising. One of the items I had on the agenda was criteria for projects. I would really like to receive direction from the board on how you want to proceed with that conversation. Just to be very candid, committee, it's all over the board based upon which one of you I talked to. And so we would love to formalize that conversation as to what do we want for criteria? What's acceptable, what's not? What would you like for us to bring forward to you? What would you like for staff to defer or send to other locations?
I would suggest that we develop a series of dates for workshops. And we tackle each item one at a time, so we can really go in depth on it instead of having a 5 or 10 minute conversation on a bunch of things, take 3-hour blocks or 4-hour blocks. And really start tackling our mission.
Mr. Chair, I really appreciate that suggestion.
Great, okay, anything else? Then this meeting is adjourned until next time. Thank you.
Yeah, this really, somebody suggested.
Yeah.
It's too hard.